Welcome to the Bare Metal Cybersysm Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. Implementing an effective information security governance framework is essential for managing risk, demonstrating accountability, and sustaining long-term program success. The purpose of information security governance is to establish a structured system of oversight and decision-making authority that guides how security is planned, managed, and measured across the organization. Governance provides the framework for aligning security objectives with broader business goals and enterprise risk management. It defines who is accountable for specific controls, how performance is measured, and where approvals and exceptions are tracked. Security governance supports compliance with legal, regulatory, and contractual requirements by creating defensible documentation and structured reporting. Most importantly, it enhances transparency between technical teams, business stakeholders, and executive leadership. Through clearly defined structures and documented responsibilities, governance ensures that security is not managed in isolation, but is an integral part of enterprise operations and strategic decision-making. Every governance framework contains a set of foundational components. These include policies and standards that outline acceptable behavior, required controls, and organizational expectations. Governance structures also define roles, responsibilities, and reporting relationships, specifying who owns which risks, who approves which decisions, and who is responsible for enforcing compliance. Metrics and dashboards are used to monitor performance and provide visibility into areas like control effectiveness, risk exposure, or policy violations. Formal committees or decision-making forums may be established to review policies, approve changes, evaluate exceptions, or oversee strategic initiatives. Finally, governance must be integrated into enterprise-wide governance, risk, and compliance functions. This integration ensures that information security governance is aligned with financial controls, legal compliance, human resources oversight, and audit programs. These components work together to ensure that security management is consistent, accountable, and embedded in the fabric of enterprise operations. Choosing a governance framework approach requires evaluating several external and internal factors. Established frameworks like COBIT, ISO/IEC 2714, or the NIST cybersecurity framework provide widely accepted structures for defining governance responsibilities and processes. Selection should be based on the organization's regulatory obligations, industry practices, and internal maturity level. For example, a heavily regulated company may adopt ISO-based governance for audit defensibility, while a public sector entity may align with NIST for compliance. The framework must be tailored to the size and complexity of the organization. A small business may implement a lightweight model, while a global enterprise may need layers of governance to match its complexity. Compatibility with existing enterprise governance structures is another essential factor. The selected approach must support integration with strategic planning, investment management, risk committees, and project oversight. The goal is to avoid duplication and ensure that security governance reinforces, not competes with, other areas of organizational control. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Defining governance roles and structures is a foundational step in implementation. Governance begins at the top with executive sponsors such as the Chief Information Security Officer, the Chief Risk Officer, or a designated member of the leadership team. These individuals provide authority, funding, and visibility for the governance framework. A steering committee or oversight board should be established to set priorities, review risks, and oversee strategic decisions. Operational control ownership should be assigned across IT, security, business units, and compliance teams. Reporting relationships must be defined for incidents, risks, exceptions, and audit findings. In many cases, cross-functional working groups are formed to address specific topics such as third-party risk, cloud security, or regulatory readiness. The RACI matrix, standing for Responsible, Accountable, Consulted, and Informed, can be used to clarify exactly who does what at each level of decision-making. This level of role clarity helps reduce confusion, streamline escalation, and ensure that no critical tasks fall through the cracks during governance activities. Governance documentation is the vehicle that supports consistency, traceability, and defensibility. Every organization should establish and maintain a clear policy hierarchy, beginning with top-level policies, then cascading into standards, procedures, and guidelines. Each document should follow a structured format and include ownership, version history, and review schedules. Governance processes must also be documented. For example, how controls are reviewed, how exceptions are handled, and how escalations are approved. These documents must be stored in accessible but secure locations and updated regularly to reflect changes in systems, regulations, or business priorities. Review cycles and approval workflows must be tracked and enforced to maintain version control. Retention schedules must be applied to ensure that obsolete documents are archived or retired in accordance with internal policy and legal standards. Well-managed documentation not only supports day-to-day governance, it serves as critical evidence for regulators, auditors, and internal reviews. Information security governance must be woven into the operational fabric of the organization. This means integrating governance checkpoints into change management processes, new system deployments, procurement cycles, and project life cycles. When new technologies are introduced, governance bodies must evaluate their alignment with policy and risk tolerance before they go live. Coordination with departments like human resources, legal, and procurement is essential for ensuring that policy enforcement, vendor contracts, and workforce accountability are addressed consistently. Security governance forums should be used to approve not only new systems but also vendor onboarding and policy exceptions. Governance must also be linked to broader enterprise functions such as enterprise risk management, internal audit, and regulatory compliance. These integrations ensure that security decisions are coordinated with financial controls, business continuity planning, and legal reporting. Involving business representation in security governance ensures that decisions reflect operational realities and avoid unintended disruption or friction. Governance frameworks must be equipped with monitoring and reporting mechanisms to ensure effectiveness and accountability. This begins by defining key performance indicators that track how well controls are performing and how consistently policies are followed. Key risk indicators may also be used to track threat trends, control failures, or systemic vulnerabilities. Dashboards should be created that visualize governance metrics for executive leadership and oversight bodies. These dashboards allow leadership to monitor trends, evaluate risk posture, and make informed decisions. Reporting must include trend analysis that highlights areas of improvement or concern, as well as progress on remediation plans, audit findings, and compliance metrics. These insights feed directly into governance decision-making processes. Tracking remediation progress helps demonstrate a closed-loop approach to risk management, where issues are not only identified but also addressed and validated. These monitoring efforts elevate governance from a static structure to a dynamic, data-informed capability. Governance must also include mechanisms for enforcing accountability and compliance. Non-compliance with policies or repeated control failures must be tracked and reported through governance structures. Escalation paths should be established for unresolved issues, especially those that impact strategic objectives, customer trust, or regulatory obligations. Governance teams must be empowered to intervene when violations occur. Policy adherence should be linked to performance evaluations, access rights, or project funding to ensure that compliance is treated seriously across the organization. For high-risk or repeated violations, disciplinary processes should be enforced in coordination with human resources and legal. Governance logs must be maintained to record actions taken, justification for exceptions, and resolution of disputes. These records support audit transparency and may be required for legal or regulatory inquiries. Enforcement must be applied consistently to maintain credibility and demonstrate that governance is not simply advisory, it is authoritative and operationally effective. No governance model remains effective without ongoing maintenance. The governance framework must be reviewed periodically, annually at a minimum, to assess its continued relevance and effectiveness As the organization grows, restructures, or adopts new technologies, roles and processes must be adjusted. Feedback from governance participants, control owners, and business stakeholders should be collected regularly to identify pain points or improvement opportunities. Lessons learned from security incidents, internal audits, and risk reviews must be incorporated to strengthen oversight. Education on governance principles, responsibilities, and expectations must be ongoing through training, onboarding, and documentation updates. Governance maturity grows not through static adherence but through adaptability. By actively reviewing and refining governance processes, organizations ensure that governance remains a source of strength, not friction or stagnation. To measure governance maturity and drive improvement, organizations can apply formal models such as the Capability Maturity Model, Integration, or COBIT maturity assessments. These models provide structured benchmarks across domains like policy management, stakeholder engagement, documentation, performance measurement, and enforcement. Maturity assessments help organizations identify where their governance program stands today, where gaps exist, and what improvements are needed to reach the next level. Benchmarking against peers or industry standards adds context and supports goal setting. Assessment results should be used to prioritize roadmap milestones for governance enhancement. These milestones might include improving executive engagement, automating reporting, tightening exception handling, or refining documentation workflows. Governance must be treated as a strategic asset, not merely a compliance requirement. It enables sustainable security operations, improves coordination across the enterprise, and enhances the organization's ability to manage risk intelligently, transparently, and consistently. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cybersecurity's Prepcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com.